Hi, I'm Dan,
Hi, I'm Ryan.
and this is Bourbon Sauced. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Also known as Lady in the Bourbon on Instagram.
I think it's Huckberry.
No, so it actually, like, the real thing is...
Our little niche is that we just like to drink bourbon and bullshit, you know? That's why the big BS in our logo is we just like
There
to
it
bullshit.
is. Bourbon and bullshit.
This week, we are going to do more bourbon for beginners, and we're going to talk about the barrel char level and how important that is
Woo!
for the flavor of your bourbon that you drink. So we've got an Old Forester here for you guys. It is the 86 proof, and you want to do the honors of setting us up?
Sure.
Oh, nifty! Look at that. It went flying off. Flying Ryan. So Old Forester is known for using a char barrel number 4
Well, specifically for this one.
for this one.
I'm
but-
not 100% sure on their other ones, but I know for this one, a lot of stuff we've reviewed and looked at,
Yeah.
they tend to do a level 4 char.
And for you that don't know, that probably means absolute gibberish. So let's start and talk about char levels and what that actually means. And so you want to kind of hit what is the science behind charring a barrel?
So I mean, as far as charring the levels, it's basically it's not minutes, it's not hours, it's matters of seconds for each level of char.
Yeah.
And the whole point of charring the barrel is one, it allows for a little bit different in coloration, and it also brings out different flavors found within the wood. So everything from like the sugars in the wood, toffee flavors, caramel notes, all these different things come out of the wood.
Yeah.
And that's where the master distillers essentially, oh, well, this needs to be this level char to bring this out.
Yeah, especially when it comes to whatever mash bill they've got. They know based on their little chemistry set in their mind as what flavor profile they're trying to draw out.
Right.
No.
Because once they char it, then it's left to set and, brew and soak in itself. And that's where the, what's
Is
the
that like
word?
Mormon soaking?
What is the word you use? What is that T word you like to use? The what? The
Tannins?
Yeah, that big word.
Yeah, the tannins.
Yeah, that's where the tannins come out, as it sets and soaks in itself. That's where you get the vanilla and all those other wonderful, luscious flavors.
Well, yeah, because, when you start burning the wood, you're breaking down that the cellulose level of the wood.
Yeah.
And so once you break that up inside the cambium and the cellulose and all those different layers of a tree, below the bark, you're going to start getting the sucrose, which is the sugars and stuff like that.
Right.
They're going to break down. People that actually paid attention in science class, did the chlorophyll, more like borophyll. But it's important to know how photosynthesis and all that stuff works, because that all has a factor in with how trees are made and how the wood forms and the rings and everything else and the density, and depending on where it comes from, if it's from a cold climate or a warm climate. But that's another episode we can talk about later.
Like the barrels are built, by hand, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we can get into that in another episode. But this one specifically is about charring. And so the use, how far back does this go?
Roman era.
Romans.
Yeah.
So the Romans.
It goes all the way back to the Roman era, and it was the original purpose of the charring of the barrel was in order to burn out the smell of seafood or whatever else they might have been storing in it.
Dead body parts.
In order to utilize it as a whiskey barrel.
Can you imagine if they actually had something that had like a dead body in it they were fermenting and they're just like, man, this one tastes like feet. I don't know why. This is weird. Like, well, Bill, funny story about that. This actually had some bodies in it. We were storing because we didn't want it stinking up the village.
All I can think of is Jackson used to show me these videos about the llamas.
Yeah,
Carl, why is there a dead body in this barrel, Carl? Oh, Carl.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is a difference between each char level. As we kind of alluded to, the more you char, the more you're going to kind of burn that cellulose layer, and it's going to have a different effect. So, char level versus toasting, because there's a difference. People like to talk about, oh, this is a toasted, or is this, is it just charred? You want to explain a little bit of the differences there?
So think of char as like grilling a burger, and think of toasted as smoking meat and actually barbecuing.
Okay, so it's a little smoother.
So charring, you're hitting it fast, high heat, you're getting it done and rolling on. Toasted, it's low and slow.
Okay.
Right, and the point of the toasted was it's typically a winemaker's thing, right? And it's become in the last few years we've noticed it's trickling more and more over into the bourbon realm.
So the idea with the low and slow is it brings more of the sugary sweetness, vanilla notes out versus the char, where it takes a longer time basically for you to get those same or similar flavors, I would imagine.
Well, that's why I like any of the toasted we have. You notice it typically tends to be sweeter and smoother than if you took it's more or less its counterpart.
Yep.
That's just charred, right?
Mm-hmm.
It tends to have, a much smoother, sweeter taste to it. And it's because they've taken the time and done that slow toastedness to it.
Yeah. And there's we've had some toasted bourbons on the show.
We have.
And we like some toasted. They seem a little gimmicky, but then you have the different timing for each charring. And we alluded that this is a char level 4.
Correct. Char level 4.
Which is the maximum amount of charring.
Mm-hmm.
The minimum, which is a char level 1, is 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And so that basically is like toasted in a way.
Yeah, because you're hitting it really quickly, 15 seconds. But I mean, I will say when you think of you're hitting it quickly, like you're hitting the insides of these barrels with a lot of fire, really fast.
Sometimes quickies are prudent.
I agree. Sometimes you just need.
Sometimes you gotta, get in and get out, and that's where char level 1 is. Basically, you're hit it and quit it, and then you're out.
Right, but it's also very unlikely to get utilized for a char level 1.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people that use char level 1.
No.
I think you're going to find that more for, beer makers, wine makers.
Well, your wine's going to stick more to the toasted, which is that low and slow.
Yeah,
because you don't want a charred.
Level 1,
yeah, but you don't want a charred wine. And that's where we were talking about the difference there in that char and the toasted.
Yeah.
That toasted is like the smoky.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's just, the char level 1 is just, it's very impractical for most bourbon distillers to use. And then you got char level 2.
Which is also kind of uncommon, but neither are not used, but they're uncommon.
Usually for like a finishing barrel.
A lot of times.
Because like if you do like a double barrel, like some of these places do double oaked or whatever, they might use that char level 2 because they don't want it to be too much.
Right. And within that char level 2,
get it too much. Yeah.
You're starting to get like the minimal of the vanilla, the caramel, and those other random notes, right?
Right.
And there's some big word they use. that occurs hemocellulose or some shit.
Hemicellulose.
Yeah, there you go. See, thank you, Dan.
That's where all the chemistry comes in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then you got the char level 3, which we're starting to get it, but more specifically with char level 2, you get the notes that come from that, right? So some of the distilleries out there are going to use that char level 2 because you're going to get that coffee, vanilla spiciness.
Right.
And
the finish on the bourbon.
So it's important to know that that's what you're going to get when you use a char level 2 versus which more popular is 3s and 4s. You commonly see 3 and 4 because, the how long they're usually letting them sit in those barrels.
But here's what's amazing about char level 3.
Yeah.
So char level 2 is 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say 30 seconds, just like char level 1's 15, right? That is on the nose.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a deviation.
It's a specific science.
So char level 3 is only 35 seconds. 5 seconds longer than char level 2 to get to char level 3. But it makes such a big change.
It does make a huge difference because of that extra time under heat. Again, the chemical components of wood and the way it breaks down that sugar.
Right.
Because you're burning off all that sugar and you're pulling more of the moisture out and you're adding that extra charness to it.
Right.
Because of it being drier, in that 5 seconds, it chars it that much more, which opens the pores a little bit more.
Right.
For the bourbon to soak in a little deeper into the wood. And so it's interesting that 5 seconds would make that much difference.
It does.
But like when we have campfires, you can tell the difference between, something that's been in the campfire.
Right.
Versus something you just put on the fire and what it looks like. So 5 seconds is a long time under high heat because they're not just sitting there with like a lighter. You know what I mean? They got these massive devices that are burning the hell out of these barrels.
Right.
They're incinerators, essentially.
But what's amazing about it, right, is so you go 15 to 30.
Yep.
Right?
And then 35.
So 15 to 30, 15 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Then you jump only 5 seconds to level 3.
Yeah.
But you jump an entire 20 seconds
to get the
from
4.
3 to 4.
Isn't that wild? So you go 15, 5, 20. Who came up with this? Some genius scientist somewhere. We probably
see. This is why y'all should stay tuned and follow around for the distillery tours.
Yes, because then we can talk to them about why they use specific char levels.
Mm-hmm. But so what I like about char level 4 is they call it the alligator char.
Because that's what it looks like.
Yep. Once you get in, you look in that barrel, it looks like an alligator's back.
It's great, especially. I was going to say the Amazon, but I think those are crocodiles.
Cayman.
And cayman, and a different animal, but similar in the pattern which they've got on their back. But
they all play in the same water.
Either way,
they're out
see
of
you
the
later,
same
alligator.
pool.
Yeah, after a while, crocodile.
I was about to say it. Yeah, you're an asshole.
But yeah, it's interesting to see because of the natural filtration. I think is why that's a more popular one because then you don't have to do like Jack Daniels where you do the charcoal filtering.
Well, not just that, but within the level 4, because it's charged so much, like as it goes through the distilling process, that alligator bark tends to like peel away, and it allows the bourbon to reach more newer flavors, newer parts of the barrel wall.
Yeah, and you end up with that vanilla,
right? So it enhances
and leather type, and what is it, dark fruit once in a while. So like this.
But they say char level 4 kind of provides its own level of filtration as opposed to the other chars.
Right, because you have charcoal now in the barrel because of how long it's been in there.
Yeah.
And that you have that natural filtration because charcoal is a natural filter, which we've learned in the military. If you're ever stuck somewhere and you need to filter water, use some sand or charcoal and rocks, and you do a little layer of each, and it's a natural filter. That's why chem suits have charcoal linings as to help filter. So in those char level 4s, because of that alligator skin that it creates and those gaps and the extra charring.
Right.
It's just natural filtration unit, which is kind of cool.
Now, one fun fact that I learned recently is that even though the kind of official, unofficial rules of charring is levels 1 through 4.
Yeah.
Charring beyond 55 seconds, it is allowed, but it's not something you readily find in a brand.
Yeah, those are one-offs.
Yeah,
and it's hard to replicate that unless you have your own facility and you're doing your own cooperage somewhere, and you're specific, like, hey, I want a 60-second char.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, now this is a custom charred barrel. And so you never know what you're going to get past that 55 seconds. It's kind of like a crapshoot. Because some woods might react differently. You don't know. Maybe that season one that you're doing this time is going to burn a little different. It might have a different burn rate.
Very true. Very true.
Which we've seen on some of the, when you're doing the milling and stuff. Different woods do react differently depending on how long they've been aged and seasoned. Because most of this stuff gets seasoned somewhere, and then they take all that and send it to a cooperage, and then they build the barrels, and then they go ahead and burn them. So it's kind of interesting, but
see, and that's like one of the biggest features of the charring is providing color to the bourbon or whiskey. Some kind of tinge or coloration off the barrel if you didn't char it, let's say. But the charring levels are going to, and then depending on how long you let it set in there,
exactly,
are going to determine that coloration.
Because we've seen, with the younger ones, you can still get a rich caramel look to the bourbon.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're using a char level 4, which, like Old Forester 86 proof here, it's not aged very long before they pour it out of the barrel. And it's got, a decent bourbon color to it. It's got a decent vanilla note to it.
Right. And you know how, like with bourbon, there's no additives, right?
Yeah.
Right? Well, you get the sweetness and all these caramelizations, right? That's all coming from that barrel.
Yes.
That's not an additive.
No.
That is coming from the wood.
No, because if you add sugar, now it's a rum.
Right.
So you can't just add sugar and sweeten it.
That's those levels of charring.
And they don't put, like, vanilla flavoring.
Right. But that's what I'm saying about those levels of charring. That's what brings that out.
Which is important for you that are beginner bourbon drinkers to know this kind of stuff, because it'll help you in picking your bourbons that you want to drink based on knowing what that distillery is using for their barrel charring level. You can be like, oh, well, I know this is going to be a spicier one because it's only at 2, or it's going to have more the caramelization and dark, heavy, fruity, dark, like cherry flavor because it's char level 3, and then
what blows my mind though, and that's probably something later down the road, is how I get tobacco out of some of these bourbons.
Yeah, how does that happen? That's weird to me because they're not putting tobacco leaves.
No.
And none of the flavoring that, like a corn doesn't taste like tobacco at all.
Barley doesn't taste like
wheat
tobacco.
Wheat doesn't taste like tobacco.
Nope.
Maybe I've never tried smoked wheat.
Well, let's just say it doesn't taste like tobacco.
I just wouldn't think it would, even if you said
nothing in their mash bill tastes like tobacco. Right? So like this one, so we're doing the Old Forester, right? Just the standard Old Forester.
Right.
It's sweet, but it's sharp at the front. And I definitely get that tobacco.
I get more mint. Like a Altoid almost.
I could see that. Like I can get mint, but the tobacco draws more for me, and that's probably because I am a tobacco user.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to be.
But I'm a regular.
You're a regular user now, yeah. And I used to do a lot of Red Man and Copenhagen. Those were my 2 go-tos.
And I'm Copenhagen all day.
Right.
And Red Man Select in the black pouch.
Oh, no, I did the Red Man and the red pouch.
Gold blend?
I like the gold blend.
Don't make me go get a pack.
That shit was
I have you on the back porch chewing with me.
Nope, we're not doing that.
So I will agree that this has I would say this has a nice warm finish. This honestly,
and it's not a long.
It's a nice.
I think it's a medium long.
I would agree with that. A little slightly dry.
Yeah.
But all in all, this is a very enjoyable bourbon.
And for a beginner at 86 proof, it's not punchy. You know what I mean? Like
it's not like
it's not real sharp. It's not going to be like, oh my God, that's too much. Like, I have to water it down.
Oh, no.
This is, you could just drink it straight, and it's okay. I wouldn't say it's the best.
No, it's, I mean, 100%.
For a beginner bourbon, but I mean, as a beginner price range, budget friendly bourbon, it's good. And it's got enough
100%.
complexity to it that it would challenge your palate a little bit. Not too much, but.
Right.
Like, I don't get any apple. I don't get any super leathery. I don't get any, like, real chocolatey notes or anything like that.
I'm just saying it like a $20, $25 bottle.
Yeah, I mean, why not? This is definitely good, and if you want to drink it straight or as a mixer, I know a lot of people do mixers with bourbons, you know, with Coca-Cola. I don't know. I just think the char level is super important for people to pay attention to, and if you're not paying attention to it, then you probably should, because it'll let you know. It kind of alludes to what you're gonna get for a flavor profile out of that bottle.
Now, some places kind of keep that hidden.
And they do, and that's like, that was funny.
Dang it. I thought it was going to shoot.
And that's what she said. But either way, this was us talking about char levels. And hopefully you guys learned something. If you didn't, well, watch it again, and maybe you'll learn something. But if you guys want to see more of these, please tune in. We're going to do a continuation of a series about stuff that beginners should probably know. And if you don't, then you can watch us and you'll pick it up. Until next time, drink your favorite bourbon and get sauced.
Cheers.